I've got with me Joel Woolf from Sydney-based experimental rock band Pirate. So, how are you, Joel?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. So, tell me, how long have you guys been together?
We formed in about 2007, so whatever that is, about 4 years, 4.5 years or something. Yeah,
And how would you describe your music to the uninitiated?
I guess we are experimental rock. We have people say we're prog. I suppose we are prog. Um, there's all kinds of elements in there. We all have different sort of backgrounds, which we bring to it. But basically, it's our live show is sort of very intense, very light, very loud. I guess chaotic in a good way. And then we try and sort of bring that to the music we put out on CD as well.
So, you've been around a while. Do you think there's a market for instrumental rock in Australia, or you just don't care, you're going to play what you want anyway?
I have to say the thinking about the market is secondary to the playing of the music. So having said that, I think there is probably a market, although it's not a huge market. But like I said, I mean, we don't do it to get rich and famous. I don't think that's on the cards, but I think it's possible for us to play to people who, like yourself, who are interested in the music and who care about it. So I guess that's what we're in it for.
Absolutely. How did you guys come to develop your unique sound? You do realise, you've got some pretty strong similarities to high-profile bands like King Crimson and Van de Graaff Generator.
I know, it's funny. People have said that to us before, and I don't even know if I should say this, but none of us in the band have really spent a lot of time checking out those bands. Perhaps it's something about us sort of having similar influences to those bands, even, and then coming up with some kind of product that's the same or something. Because yeah, like, we've never really spent too much time checking out King Crimson and Van de Graaff Generator, actually. So yeah.
Obviously, I'm not the first one to compare you that way. Have you gone and checked out those bands since people have mentioned it to you?
Yeah, I have had a bit of a listen, and I mean, it's good stuff. Yeah, it's great.
Can you see what people are talking about?
Yeah, yeah, I can. I guess it's kind of hard in some ways because, like, I'm inside of this band. It's hard to view it from an outsider's point of view. So someone says something like that, and you go, "Oh, okay," and then you listen to something like what they recommended, and you can see where they're coming from. But for me, it's very hard to see our own music in the same way that I see anyone else's music. So it's kind of hard to make a comparison as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, you've been affiliated with the Birds Robe Collective for a while now. It's been a while since we've talked about the BRC on the show.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about it.
Okay. Well, basically, it's a bunch of guys in Sydney who formed this collective a few years ago through a love of all things prog. Basically, they're really into supporting this kind of music. It's all sort of not for profit. They're all just putting in their own sort of time for the love of the music, basically. And they've just recently launched a record label, Birds Robe Records, which is pretty awesome. They've got some really great releases coming up on that, and they've sort of got a booking roster of bands, I guess, in the same sort of scene as us. They look after, and yeah, basically they're just all round legends.
Now, you're the saxophone player and the vocalist. I want to
Yeah,
ask you
that's
about the vocals first. They're not your standard vocals, are they?
no, they're not.
Did I
Not at
read
all.
somewhere that you actually scream into the bell of your saxophone?
It's true. I do. I have been known to do that. It's pretty fun, really, and it sounds pretty awesome when it's going through a humongous PA with heaps of distortion all over it. So, but I guess that's when the spirit takes me. But yeah, we have sort of started incorporating some more vocal elements on this latest release, which is still, again, not your sort of straight up vocals. I guess they're more abstract, more effect laden, more of a texture and an instrument rather than your standard sort of straight up front vocals.
Tell me about your electronically treated saxophone. I've read that it's got a bit of a personality disorder.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a long story, but basically, I started off being a saxophone player and being really obsessed with jazz and all things acoustic, believe it or not. And I guess I kind of just wanted some new directions, so I started messing around with putting my sax through guitar pedals and amplifying it, and I found I could come up with some pretty cool sounds to sort of extend the range of tones and textures available to me. So now I have this humongous, stupid pedal board filled with I don't know how many different pedals, delays, distortions, filters, wah pedals, all kinds of things. And yeah, I guess when you say it has a personality disorder, I guess I'm trying to think about it as a guitarist would in some ways. Switching on the distortion for a more sort of for more projection, more intensity, really spacey delays, all that kind of thing that aren't sort of typically available to just an acoustic saxophone.
So you could be the world's first shoegazing saxophonist.
Well, there have been other sax players who've done same kind of thing, but maybe.
So what was the reception to your first EP? That was the one called Pirate, just Pirate, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep, there was some pretty intense stuff on there. It's a lot more. I think that's the word. It's a lot more intense than the new album. How was that received?
Look, I think really well. I mean, I guess we feel really blessed that people kind of got to listen to it and seem to like it, which is fantastic, really. Obviously, we didn't really get any mainstream radio exposure, but there have been plenty of people around the country who in community radio who've sort of expressed interest in it, which is exactly what community radio is there for. So that's fantastic. And yeah, I guess on the whole, it's been sort of received pretty well, and it was a good learning experience for us for how to produce and record things and what effect that would have, and yeah, I guess it's been received really well.
I was looking at your MySpace page earlier, and the opening track off that EP, Phallicus Metallicus,
Yeah.
that has the most hits. So I think you must have the opening track down pat.
Yeah. Thanks.
Now, how long were you guys working on this particular album called Left of Mind, which has it just been released?
That's right, just been released.
Yeah. How long were you working on that?
Well, I guess we spent a good many months in the writing process, in the rehearsal studio, sort of nutting out the songs and playing them, sort of making crappy little demos and playing them back and listening to them and critiquing them, and really just trying to hone the songs down and whittle them down to their sort of their purest form and their best sort of iteration. And that probably took us, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so of really solid work. And then once we sort of felt like we were ready to record, we spent another, I think it was about 3 months working pretty much every day on recording, mixing, producing, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so quite a while, really.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the actual songwriting process. You alluded to it there, but do you sit down and just flesh things out on paper, or do you just jam it and improvise a song until it forms?
Well, I guess the way we work is one of us will bring in an idea. Let's say it's a riff or a melody or a chord progression or a drum beat, whatever it might be, and show it to the rest of the band. We'll then, each sort of play it and try and figure out what parts would be appropriate with that. If we decide that the idea has sort of merit or something, then we will try and jam around that, come up with parts that we think work well after and before it, and sort of they tend to evolve over a long period of time. So the initial idea might be very different from how it ends up after it's been through our process. And we all sort of, we all have different things that we bring to the band. So it's quite a democratic writing environment, even though we might have different and strong ideas about where things should go.
So it sounds as if it's quite a structured process, even though the end result in some ways seems like organised chaos.
Yeah, I guess I guess there's a method. If there isn't a structure, there's definitely a method that we sort of follow that seems to work for us. A procedure of a way of working that we follow. I mean, there is a structure. Yeah, there is a structure.
So when you being a more of a progressive band, when you take it out live,
Mm.
do you tend to stick to the format that you've got down, or do you improvise a bit during the live gigs?
There's always room to move. Within the songs, there are some parts that are set, I suppose, that are generally the same, and then there are some parts that are completely different. And then there are sort of some, solo sections where obviously it'll be a different solo for a different length each time. Dialogues with the band, dialogues within the band, and different sort of dynamic elements. We might really bring a part right down on one night, whereas it might be really loud and intense on another night. So again, it's sort of very structured, but there's room to breathe and room to move within that structure.
Yeah. So the album's been released now.
Yep.
It's getting lots of good comments. Is that the general reception so far?
Yeah, it seems to be going down really well, which is, really nice to hear.
Yeah, it's always what you want.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're going to be doing. You're going to Melbourne?
That's right. We just played in Melbourne
Yep.
On the weekend at Progfest, which was really fun. That was great. And then we are going to be heading back to Melbourne a bit later in the year, probably in November, but hasn't been 100% confirmed yet. So yeah, but we've got gigs coming up in a couple of gigs in Canberra, a couple of gigs in Wollongong, and then a couple more Sydney shows as well.
Big question for me is when are you coming to Tassie?
We would love to come to Tasmania, man. Basically, it's just a money thing, really. I mean, it's hard for us to get there. We tend to travel with all our gear. As you can imagine, we have a lot of specialist stuff we need to take with us, and it's really expensive trying to get that places. Having said that, I definitely think it's on the cards. We'd really love to come down to Tasmania. So I'll talk to Mike, who is our booking guy, and get him onto it.
That'd be really good.
Mm.
If I don't get to see you sometime somewhere on the mainland,
Yeah.
wish you all the best and hope to see you in Tassie sometime.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks for chatting with me, Joel.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for all your support, man. Really appreciate it.